Welcome into One Bills Live. Maddie Glab alongside of Steve Tasker. Week 15 is here. It features an epic matchup between the Bills and the Patriots. It feels like the biggest game of the season. Bills are 9-4. Patriots are 11-2, riding a 10-game win streak. A lot of meaning behind this one. And to help us talk about all of that is NFL on CBS sideline reporter Evan Washburn, who joins us right now. Evan is also along with Ian Eagle, JJ Watt, who are a part of the NFL on CBS coverage of the Bills at Patriots for Sunday's matchup. Evan, thanks for taking the time to come and break down this matchup with us.
No doubt. Excited for it.
Yes. This is a huge one. We've been talking about it all day, pretty much all week here. It feels like we turn the page a little bit quicker than we normally do just because of the magnitude behind this matchup. When you started to study these two teams, what's the biggest thing that sticks out right now about what Sunday means?
There's so much to it, Maddie, and I think on the surface, there is the idea of changing of the guard. I'm not sure I'm ready to go there yet. Yes, one of these two teams is going to win the AFC East. New England's in the driver's seat. But I think these teams mirror themselves in a lot of ways. And they have the MVP and Josh Allen and your Buffalo Bills up against the up-and-comer and Drake Maye. And it really takes me back to 2019 when these two teams met in Week 16 in New England. And it's almost as if the roles are reversed. And I think if you're a Bills fan, you're hoping that that's the case here in 2025 because New England wins that game. They hold off Buffalo. They win the division again, their last time since they've now handed it over to the Bills for the last 5 seasons. And their season ended in the wild card and the Brady era was over in New England. But it's not that because Josh isn't going anywhere in Buffalo for hopefully a while now, but this is the first time where they've had a real test. And I think the teams kind of play a similar brand of football in a lot of ways. It comes down, in my mind, and you go to Week 5, what team's going to make the least amount of mistakes and who's going to be more effective in the red zone, and that might decide this one.
So, Evan, I've got an affinity for you, what you do standing on the sidelines down there. I'm looking at the 10-day. On Sunday, it's supposed to be high of 31, low of 13. Snow showers in the morning, like a 50-50 chance of precipitation. Foxborough is going to be cold. It might be wet. It might be too wet to be wet. It might be too cold to be wet. It might be snowy. How do you think that affects it? The Bills just had a game like that this last week against Cincinnati. Is that anything to think about?
It's always something to think about, Tasker. Look, you lived it as a player. You've been on the sidelines for plenty of these games as well. It impacts all of us. And I do think that Buffalo, because of Josh, because of their style of play, their comfort in it, you guys live in it day to day and just haven't played in it in that game against the Bengals, I would give them the edge in any weather situation. And New England doesn't really run the ball that well. They would argue maybe that's by design. They use it as a way to set up things in the passing game. But as you know, when conditions are not optimal, a strong ground game offensively can be really helpful. So I do think that would help Buffalo if that is the case. I'm hoping that maybe the weather pushes through and we get a true clear, yes, cold, not windy game, and it kind of puts both teams in a position to perform at their best and see who's going to come out on top.
New England's riding a 10-game win streak. What's been their identity during that span?
Consistency since Week 3, ball security. They turned the ball over 5 times in that loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Our crew was actually there for that game, and if you'd have told me walking away from that one that team would then go on and win 10 games and we'd be having this conversation about them winning the AFC East potentially on Sunday, I would have told you were crazy because they just looked like a young team that had a clear foundation under Mike Vrabel, but not necessarily ready to make that push. But they've been able to do it. And I think it starts with not losing the ball, not turning it over nearly as much, and the efficiency in which Drake Maye's played. And you can't give enough credit to Josh McDaniels and the marriage that those two have had, and just how he's taken Maye's game to another level, just above the shoulders too. And I think that's where we all knew he had the physical gifts. Where he's impressed me most is just his decision making. He just hasn't made a lot of poor decisions over the course of this 10-game win streak. And defensively, they always play tough under Mike Vrabel, and they've done that. They're kind of near the top in a lot of the important categories outside of red zone. And again, I mentioned that off the top. I do think that's going to be something to really look at in this game early. Are they trading 7 for 3? How's that math going when and if they find themselves in the red zone? But it feels like an elevated version of some of the Mike Vrabel teams that he had in Tennessee. Maybe not the elite level roster talent, but they're getting a ton out of their rookies. And maybe it's a roster that we'll look at in a year or two and go, oh, they actually are littered with guys. We just didn't know who they were. They hit it in free agency, and they've got a belief. And Steve, you know this. You played the game at a high level. This locker room believes they can go on and win this game and probably win a Super Bowl. And just because all of us are surprised by it, they don't really care.
Yeah, this seems like a team. You can call it what you want, firing on all cylinders or well-rounded. I mean, they get contributions from everybody across the never spectacular, but always extremely solid, high floor, and they just don't make enough mistakes for any team to take advantage of. And if you're going to beat them, you kind of have to play that way.
No doubt. And I should mention, and not just because we're talking, special teams has been unbelievable as well in terms of the return game, the coverage and kickoffs and punt coverage. Talked to Marcus Jones a little while ago. I mean, I think he's as ultimate a weapon as you can have when he's able to get a clean opportunity at a punt return. He's been dynamic. You just look at what he did in that Monday night game against the Giants. And it's a group that feels like a version 2.0 of some of the Belichick teams where they're not going to beat themselves and then they're going to allow the opportunity to then beat you. And I think a lot of teams in the NFL struggle with that because of their inability to take care of the ball or in those critical possession downs not make the right decision. It's a fun team to now have in the mix from our side of things, from a coverage standpoint. I know Bills fans aren't loving that they're doing this in the division. But I also think, and the last point I would make on this is, it's fair to at least bring up the road that they've had over the course of this 10-game win streak. Outside of the Week 5 game against y'all, it's not been necessarily the top of the heap in terms of the NFL, and I think that's helped them build some confidence and ability to feel really good coming into this matchup in Week 15.
The Patriots will see Buffalo, obviously, this Sunday, and then the week after, they've got the Baltimore Ravens. I want to go back to the Josh McDaniels and Drake Maye part of it all, because so many people have said, wow, what Maye and McDaniels have done together is amazing. Just a second-year quarterback, a part of the MVP conversation, your most efficient passer this season. When it comes to what McDaniels has done for Maye, what's been the biggest part in Maye's development this season?
I think, Maddie, it would be his ability to teach the position where, yeah, there's the mechanical side of things and the fundamentals and the ability to make the throws and how to do all those things, but it's more above the shoulders and giving Maye the opportunity to learn how to truly play the position and not necessarily have all the answers prior to the snap, but put him in a position to, if he wants to dig in intellectually and learn how to play it at the highest level, which – and you look at guys like Josh, Mahomes, obviously Tom and Peyton before him, Drew Brees. Those guys are playing the game intellectually at a different level, what they see pre-snap and post-snap. And I think that's where, going back to the point made earlier, we didn't know that about Drake Maye. We just knew him as this physically gifted, really young, raw player coming out of UNC and can make all the throws, do all those things in the workouts and the combines, and even in the times that he played last year, even though it was an unsuccessful season in terms of results. I even think of when he played you guys late in the season. Our crew had that game. It was cold. It was kind of nasty. It was a 405 or I think week 16 or 17. And just watching him warm up and the way he throws the ball. But this year, it's been about how he and Josh have gotten to a place over the course of the season where you can see he's just his calmness of his feet. He's playing the game on his terms and just making the right play. And Mike Vrabel points out some of his highlights in the coach's mind, Maddie, would be the plays, the throws he's not making, the scrambles that he's making, the decisions he's making based off of the situational football. So it's really been above the shoulders to me that Josh McDaniels has really made his impact on Drake Maye.
In the last month or so, Milton Williams went down, the defensive tackle, and even now they're the number 3 run defense in the league, are the Patriots. But over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they're the 20th ranked run defense. Milton Williams has obviously made a difference. The teams they have played over the last 3 weeks was not a gauntlet. It was Cincinnati, it was the Giants, it was the Jets, and they've struggled to stop the run to the point where where they were early in the season. Milton Williams is still going to be out of this game, and the Bills are a really good running football team. What is going to be the plan for the Patriots, you think, to not let that happen given their, the injuries they've sustained?
It's a great point. And I think that's where the chess match when it comes to Mike Vrabel and he's got Zach Kern, who's kind of taken over that play calling duty, but make no mistake, Vrabes is going to have his impact on how they call this defense. And I think how he views this, he's got that scheme to him where he's going to see, all right, we're deficient in this area, and they're not going to shy away from acknowledging that, but we're going to have to sell out to stop James Cook. He's made that point in terms of his respect for what Cook's been able to do throughout this week. And that's something that, honestly, we don't know right now, and they don't want us to know. I think we're going to find out early in this game if it's bringing another defender into the box and how that affects things and what that allows maybe Josh to do and Joe to do in terms of play calling to attack things through the air. But they know that Buffalo's coming in to New England wanting to run the ball to establish everything they do. And you're right, they've been vulnerable in that spot since Milton Williams went down, and he's not available. So they've been throwing bodies at it, and it worked against the Giants on Monday night. But this is a different beast, as you guys well know, in what Buffalo brings in that department.
Over New England's 10-game win streak, the offense and defense and special teams have been very complementary, which is hard to sustain for that long. The offense has averaged more than 23 points per game, and the defense has allowed under 23 points per game, longest streak in a single season in NFL history. Where the broken parts have been are in the red zone, both offensively and defensively. What is going wrong for the Patriots when they get to the red zone?
I think it's just really challenging. And that's where a guy like Josh at this point in his career can make some plays and see some things that a guy in year two, even if he's playing at an MVP caliber pace, maybe doesn't see. And maybe the fact that they don't have a 1A alpha receiver, they have a quality tight end in Hunter Henry, but they don't have a gotta-have-it guy. I mean, I would say Diggs is probably that. Mac Hollins is actually, it's a lot of former Bills that have been really effective in some of those situations when they have found seven in the red zone. They've been a big play offense in a lot of ways, and so they haven't been in the red zone maybe as much. But no, I think, Maddie, it's a great point, and we've touched on it a couple times here. Both teams, and look, Buffalo – defensively, I think they're 24th in terms of red zone defense. So two units that maybe aren't at where they want to be in that department. Whoever has the edge in that area, I think will go a long way in determining who wins this game.
Evan, what are your thoughts about how this game is going to look? I mean, the big picture, every season, every matchup between these two is a single possession game. It has been for almost double-digit matchups. The first game this season, the Bills turn it over 3 times, and it's still a 3-point game at the end, and the Patriots kick a walk-off. It's going to be one of those games. What do you think? I mean, what's it going to take for one of these teams to get an edge and maybe get a lead where they don't have to sit on the edge of your seats and chew your fingernails?
Well, we're hoping that that's the case, because that as you know, on our side of the coin is most important. We want entertainment, and that usually happens late in games. Look, the things that come to mind, Steve and Maddie, when it comes to this matchup, and it falls in line with your question there, Steve, it's the difference between Josh and this Bills offense home and away. So now they're going on the road, and not that they've been terrible on the road in terms of performance, but the numbers take a dip. But also, New England, since that Buffalo game in Week 5 in your backyard, has not been in a second half where they've been down. They haven't had to – now, they've been in some tight situations. They've had to play out games to win them. But they haven't had to claw back. And then on the flip side, as you all well know, the Bills have lived in terms of second half point differential and just being able to turn things on in those critical moments late in games, late in the third, fourth quarter. and they've been at their best in the second half. So all those contrasting aspects of the roads for these two teams to get here makes this on paper line up as which group's going to be able to play the game on their terms stylistically. I think if it's New England, they want to get out in front. Not necessarily, there's no one I don't think in either side is going to be blowing anyone out in this game, but control the game from the first half into the second half and not have to fight their way back, because that's unfamiliar territory for a team that plays a lot of rookies. That's the other thing too. At least as of Monday night, now there's been a bye week where nobody played, the Patriots were second in the NFL in rookie snap totals. So to be able to do this with a lot of young guys, this can be their biggest game as pros. And then even for a guy like Drake Maye, it's his biggest game as a pro. Second half, when things get tight, that crowd's a little nervous, as you mentioned, chewing their fingernails. I would say I'd lean more towards Buffalo. So I think just how the game starts, who's dictating tempo and style, and obviously the scoreboard into the second half will give us a real sense of again, who's going to win this incredibly critical matchup here in Week 15.
We've talked a lot about the Patriots, but got one more for you before we wrap things up. As it relates to Buffalo, in the last two games, you see them go to Pittsburgh and rush for 249 yards, a record at Pittsburgh. And then last week against the Bengals, you see Josh Allen go off for 4 touchdowns. The defense has a pick 6. The takeaways have been coming in bunches for Buffalo's defense as of late. What type of team is Buffalo becoming at this point in the season?
They're becoming a team who knows they can win ugly. They can win in a variety of ways, and I think that's extremely dangerous this time of year. They know who they are. I think the words that Sean used post-game, you guys might know. I'm sure you've already played it. It was something to the effect of he likes the fabric in which this team is starting to resemble or look like. And I took that as, yeah, it's not going to be as clean as they would like it to be. There's going to be deficiencies based off of a lack of availability. I would point to on the defensive side of the ball. They want to stop the run better than they have. They want to do things probably more efficiently than they have. They want to stop turning it over in times, putting themselves in these positions late in games for Josh to make these heroic plays. But they know who they are, and they've been there before. And the longer I'm in and around this league doing this job, at this point in the season, and then most importantly in January, the experience of these moments and the scar tissue, both positively and negatively, of December games and then January games, I think is extremely valuable. And that's what, again, makes this game so exciting to preview and get set for. You have a team in Buffalo who, as you laid out, Maddie, is doing it in a certain way, and it's starting to work, and they're starting to have that belief. And you guys have been around it long enough to know what that means. And New England, on the flip side, it's so fresh, it's so new, it's so exciting. But I know in the back of at least fans' minds, and maybe those that cover the team, I can't speak for those guys in the locker room and those coaches, there's still this level of like, well, what happens when we're in one of those moments in December against a team like Buffalo and a quarterback like Josh? We don't know yet. Well, we're going to find out on Sunday, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Evan.
It takes some learning for sure. Thank you so much, Evan. Appreciate it. We won't be there on Sunday, but we hope you have a great game, and we can't wait to watch you on TV.
Thanks, guys.